Hello, hello, and welcome back. Look, y'all gonna get tired of seeing Phoenix Fitness Fanatics today. Nah, y'all never get tired of seeing us. We are taking center stage once again today on this wonderful Wednesday to chat with our contributing writer, Kimberly Richardson. We are gonna bring her on in. Good morning, Kimberly.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good, thank
Oh,
you.
I am fantastic. So, everyone, November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. This is a very important month because there's a lot of people out there that are caregivers that are dealing with, ailing parents that have, Alzheimer and dementia. And Kimberly is the author of My Mother's Keeper, a daughter's struggle with balancing love, care, and protection for her mother battling dementia. She's got the book up right there. So, man, it's amazing, amazing, amazing. So let's chat about this book because I'm telling you, look, this is something that has impacted so many people's lives and they're lost, Kimberly. I mean, it's tearing up families. So please share. Can you please share with us how you came up with writing this book?
That is such a true statement, Tiffany, and you're right. It is it's devastating. So many families, and I ended up writing about my journey with my mother, Laura, and because when I was in that journey with her going through the Alzheimer's, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of she was diagnosed with dementia at the age of 63. And 9 years later, she passed at the age of 72 with Alzheimer's. And so I just want to just clarify, dementia versus Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's is a type of dementia and is the number one cause of, it's the number one dementia in the United States, and it's startling that the Alzheimer's Foundation of America estimate, like you said, that there's over 6 million people in this country, that is, living with that disease, and that number is estimated to more than double by the year 2060. So it's more of a reality now than ever before.
Yeah.
So when I was in that journey with my mother Laura, I kept hearing stories of people, oh yeah, this my mother had it, and yeah, I understand, but you never really knew what that involved, and you never really heard the inside story so much. People
Yeah.
will say it, they will talk about it, but they, never really
Broke it
understood
down.
how it impacts the family. And
Mhm.
that's how I, came to writing about it, even though it was hard to do. But I wrote about it for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to honor my mother's memory, and and I was able to do that. And number two, I wanted to create a help aid for others to have something to kind of like follow, so they can kind of like know more inside details. And so my book, My Mother's Keeper, it takes you, it really gives you an inside look at what that looks like. And I wanted to bring people along in that journey. And in the midst of me writing that book, it became a health aid, or it was therapeutic for me as well. So it was a healing um, mechanism for me as well. And it wasn't something that it was hard to write about it. I know I put it off. I put it off for a couple of years, but God has a way of when He wants to use you, He has a way of like, you know, reminding you
Yes.
and
Yes.
giving you little utterances on getting to the book. And so I put it off, and I was like, yeah, I'll write about it. And because it was traumatic, I put it off. And then I think it was around the third, maybe, uttering from God. And so I'm gonna tell you, I wanted to share. I happened to have been, it was, I was in my car. I just pulled up in my garage, and there was something that came on the radio, and the melody and the music was just so, it was captivating to me. I couldn't get out of the car because I was like, wow, this melody, what is this song? And I
Mm.
sat in there in the car and I listened to the song, and I knew that it was, God saying, you got to do this, you got to write the story. And the song talked about, it was so spiritual, and it just talked about, oh, the words, it escapes me right now, but the author of that song, her name was Laura, last name Story.
Mm.
So when I started journaling my experience about my mother, I had actually titled it in my journal Laura's Story. So
Um,
that that was like, after that I just started writing, and I started writing, and I think I wrote that book in like 2 weeks, because
wow.
I had already started journaling, like, all the things that I was going through as I was in it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really, I don't, no one that was connected to me during that time. I don't know if there was any books out there for me to like go to,
Yeah.
to find out, okay, what should I expect? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that was the premise of me writing the story and writing the book.
Awesome. Now, when you go through, when you're going through and you're a caregiver, that's a lot of work because you're also having to, work yourself. Maybe you have a job or you have a business that you're running. And so this is an additional job. What did you do to just stop and give yourself that self-care? Because I know that that's one of the big things that's missing from caregivers. When I talk to different people that are, nurses and, caregivers to parents and things like that, they never talk about sitting down and actually spending time to just relax. So, what did that look like for you? What did that self care look like for you going through this
So,
journey?
it started. So I was still, in my career job. I was working, overtime, a lot of hours. My youngest son at the time was in high school, so I was kind of caught in the middle between, my youngest child and my mother. Even though
Mm.
my mother didn't live with me at the time, but she had been diagnosed, and so I became her guardian. And so I um, in that nearly 10-year journey, um, handling all of her business. And what happened, in my this was around 20, maybe 2010. She had been in an assisted living facility for, in 2012 I retired, but she had been in an assisted living facility for 4 years. And it was in 2012 that I decided to leave work, and because there were some things going on with her there, and I knew that I needed to, be ready for whatever that was. Wasn't sure what it was, but again, spirit was uh, guiding me, or to leave. and
Yeah.
and it was a good time for me as well. It was almost 30 years. I did. And so I had done all that I had, set goals to do in a job, and I was ready to go. And so I just felt like, that was the time. It was just time for me to leave. And so 2 weeks into that retirement, I got a call from the facility that my mom had been in for 4 years, and they said, "Well, your mom has, been having all these falls, and we don't think that we can keep her safe, so we're giving you a 2 week notice. And so I was like, oh my God, I was like, I knew that I needed to get ready, but I wasn't expecting anything that soon, right? I thought
Right.
I was going to have time to kind of like get used to my new normal, have a few months to kind of like just unwind. And, so it was in that, that moment I was like, wow, what am I going to do? Because you can't just, I couldn't just put her anywhere. It
Right.
took so much time and energy, to when, go and look at facilities and I just didn't have the energy for that because, we had done that. My brothers and my sister and is five siblings. I'm the second oldest. I'm the oldest girl, and there were three of us that was kind of involved in my mother's care, but I was the main person. And it usually happens like that. It's usually always one in the family, and I happen to have been that one. So, um, your question is, so what do you do in that instance? So I talked it up with my husband. At the time, the home that we were in, it was set up to, to make room for mom. And so I ended up bringing my mother home. I didn't know how I was going to do whatever was needed to care for her. But at the time, she was still mobile. She was still able to, walk on her own. And she just needed 24-hour supervision. And so
Mhm.
it was in that, during that time that I brought her home and became her caregiver. And I prayed. I was like, Lord, this is what I feel. I can't just put her somewhere. My mother
Yeah.
has been in this place all this time, and I felt like she needed to be around her family and be loved on, right? And I
Yeah.
just felt like I needed to give her that. And so I prayed, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna trust you in this journey. And so, you know, there were people that he put in my path. There were people that helped me. You start with the healthcare provider for referrals for agencies, and so I got all this assistance and this help. And there are daycares out there, and so it gave me a break. I was able to, put my mother in a daycare for 3 days out of the week, and that gave me that space and that break, so I wouldn't like just lose it, or I
Mhm.
would like make myself sick. So
Yeah.
there are things out there that's available for caregivers. There are respite facilities that you can research, and so I was able to go on vacation and go out of town for a week and put my mother in a respite facility for a week. And so, I bowled, my husband and I, we bowled, every other week. And so I was still able to continue some of those activities, with some of the assistance that's out there with the different agencies. And there are, care facilities that you can get home care aides to come in, and I utilized all of that. It was uncomfortable at the beginning because it's just my husband. We were empty nesters at the time when I brought my mother
Mhm.
home, and it's kind of hard to have people up in your house.
Right.
So that was an adjustment, but you just have to just trust, and you have to like do due diligence, and do your research. You have, if you need to have a healthcare aide come to your home, you have to vet them, and there's a process to do that. But it's a revolving door with that as well. I would have
Mhm.
one person, you get to know them and you get comfortable with them, and then 2 weeks later, there's somebody else showing up at your door, and so it's not the easiest thing, but you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what are some of the subtle clues that others should look out for before taking the steps to seek assistance?
So, um, right, there are seven stages of dementia, and
Wow.
usually
Okay.
the first stage, there's really no, you would never know. There are no signs, even though dementia, it is there before we even realize it, like years before it
Mhm.
starts, surfacing, and it's usually around the third stage of dementia, which you start seeing, like, subtle signs. They start, your loved one or whoever, they start repeating themselves, so that verbal repetition. They start, having memory loss or forgetting things more
Wow.
so than the norm,
Mhm.
and or they have difficulty driving, or if they are working, they start having problems with working, and they, in my mother's case, she had gotten laid off from her job, and it was just a domino effect. She had gotten laid off, and she was stressed, and then that stress took her into a depression, and that
Wow.
depression just kind of, just, I believe it took her into the dementia sooner than later. So
Mm.
it was,
Wow.
so it's those type of things. Now, in the later stages, like when you get close to like stage 6 or 7, it is more of a question of, well, can they actually be on, live on their own? And so when they start having confusion with their daily tasks, like getting
Mm.
dressed,
Yeah.
they
Bathing.
they can't manage their bills, or they're not eating, their diet. And so there was sometimes, like when my mother was still able to live independently, I would check on her, multiple times throughout the week, and I would go by, and some of her things, like her toothpaste would be in the kitchen cupboard, or her
Mm.
shoe would be here, or she would have food that had been sitting out. And so you start seeing these things, and you're like, wow. Or her
Yeah.
clothes would be on, backwards. And
Mhm.
then, you see changes in the hygiene, where my mother, she always kept a clean home and everything. And so you
Mhm.
start seeing, that change. So yeah, those are some of the signs to kind of look for when you know that they shouldn't be,
Mhm.
left on their own, and they need 24-hour supervision.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that. Now we're going to cut for a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the networks and agencies and different things that are available. So.
Sure.
Wait, you want some more? Wait, you want some more? Okay. Wait, you want some more? Wait, you want some more?
And we are back. We're talking with Kimberly Richardson about her book, My Mother's Keeper, A Daughter's Struggle with Balancing Love, Care, and Protection for Her Mother Battling Dementia. November is Alzheimer's and Dementia Awareness Month. So, really just taking a nice deep dive. So now, Kimberly, how does someone go about selecting, the appropriate network or the agencies, for possible treatment for their loved one, in the case of, of Alzheimer's or dementia?
So it's, first you start with their healthcare provider. They are the number one source to go to, because first of all, you have to get the diagnosis. They have to diagnose, your loved one, and determine whatever is going on with them, whatever that ailment is. They have to rule out that it's not something else. But in the case of Alzheimer dementia, and I should mention, um, it's dementia, but it's Alzheimer's, and the only reason why it's dementia is when it progresses to the point to where they're not getting better, because there are some types of dementia that is reversible, but Alzheimer's is not. And so the only reason they don't really call it Alzheimer's at the beginning is because um, they will have to do they can only see that after death, and when they do a autopsy, and they can see that it's Alzheimer's. And so if you hear that term, you can hopefully understand that Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, right? But the doctors are going to use dementia because it's more of a broad term. But how people can, get the assistance and find help out there, you start with a healthcare provider, because they have referrals and, connections and networks that they can refer you to, because this is what they do. They deal with it all the time. There's also your local Department of Health and Human Services. They also have programs out there, and they also offer financial assistance. You can get financial assistance by being a caregiver. So there is, those things are out there, and also talk to your friends and your family network. There's always somebody that knows somebody that, they know somebody who's gone through it.
Yeah.
And usually, those main three sources are the ones you want to start with. But there are so many others out there. There's in your local area, there's the area agency on aging, that you can also, get other resources. But usually, in my experience with my mother, there is, hospice. Hospice also provide, and a lot of times, when you hear hospice, you're like, well, wait a minute,
Right.
my mother is not, or my whoever, they're not at that stage. They're still here. They're not like ready. And so, but hospice also has a lot of resources, and they, can give you a listing. They also have people in their network that they can, if you have to place your loved one in a facility, they have people in their network that they can send out to be another set of eyes, when you can't be there as much as you want to. And so, definitely, those are some really, really good resources to go to.
Sounds like there's a lot of great resources out there. You just gotta ask, right?
Absolutely.
So how does lifestyle play an important role in longevity and the quality of our lives?
And you, Tiffany, coming from a fitness background, and it is key. The better we're able to maintain a healthy balance with our physical, our emotional, and our spiritual well-being, the better chance that we have of living, a long-term life, having longevity, and we can offset some of these ailments that we tend to get, because when you're living a life and you're stressed, and your diet, you're not eating like you need to, you're not in good health,
Right.
then it exacerbates some of these ailments. And some things that we can control, and it's always better to we can control our diet, we can control how we
Exercise.
cope in life with stressors and challenges and obstacles, and we can control our spiritual, you got to be connected to something that's greater than ourselves. And when you get,
Right.
when your focus is always the negative, then, that's not a healthy, it's not a healthy balance. And
Right.
also, if you have a vitamin deficiency, my mother, wow, she had hypertension, and so she had been on meds for high blood pressure for years. And
Hmm.
so when you have those type of things, and you want to, look into your family history on some of the ailments, that may be more prevalent. But
Hmm.
I don't claim anything. I don't care what
Right.
happened, with great grandma and
Right.
mama and everything. Is like, um I know that I can, control, and I can, do some things to offset some of that. But it is important to just know some of those things, that can really curtail,
Hmm.
you having that, we got to be able to fight off, some of the stuff that we have to deal with in the pandemic now.
We do.
It just throws another, another wrench into that. So, but yeah, definitely, try to just, maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Look
Essential.
for things that's going to help you thrive, especially as we age. And that's why I am so passionate about my platform, my 50 plus shades of us platform, because it is so key. When we are 50 and older, it's not the time to slow down. It's not the time to think that we can't,
Right.
you know, pursue and do all these other things. And matter of fact, it's the best time, because we don't have
Hmm.
all those other, things pulling on us, like children, and and working for someone else. And so, yeah,
Right.
health is definitely a key in our longevity.
Health is definitely our wealth, right?
Yes, it
So
is.
it's everything. I mean, and I think even focusing on, as we're, still I'm pushing 50 myself, okay, and I still say, hey, I'm still young. So as we're still young, we
Amen.
want to make sure that, we're looking at the things that also make this happen. What are some of the things that could possibly put you into that dementia state, right? Like over, abundance of alcohol in your life, things like that. You want to combat that. Like my mother is going to be 79 years old and she is sharp as a whip. And the reason why she is because she eats a balanced meal every day. She walks almost 5 miles every day.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. I mean, and this is on two replacement hips, mind you. She's
Mhm.
a champion. And she also loves cross puzzles and like word finds. She's always doing these things to help her brain just stay, in action. And it's so funny because when I watch her, I remember another auntie that I had that lived until she was about 97. And she was just as sharp at 97 when she had cancer, she had bladder cancer, had the treatment, or had the surgery, excuse me, did not need any type of treatment, just the surgery. And then, you know, rehabilitated, all that good stuff. It did come back, unfortunately. But when she passed, she walked herself down 16 steps from her home and put herself into the ambulance, still talking very clear, letting them know exactly what she needed, how she was feeling, everything. And this woman, she would every day ride her stationary bike. I mean, even up until her 90s, was still doing that, eating right. She grew her own food. She grew all different types of greens and all these things in her backyard, so that is very essential to us to make sure that we are, getting in the good food, the color, keep our plates colorful,
Colorful.
stop with all the processed foods and all that stuff because they have all the nasty chemicals that are hurting us and that are, bringing on the dementia and things like that. I mean, the numbers, like he said, it's like the numbers are just
Start.
astounding,
Yes,
and they're going to be getting even worse. Why is that? We need to
exactly.
figure out why is that. It's
And it's
because we're not putting the right things in our bodies.
That is so true, Tiffany, and it's not and it's affecting younger people more now. It's not just before it was an elderly thing. You're 60 and older, and but that's not the case anymore. It's people in their 40s and 30s, and so it is.
Yeah.
You're right. It's so vital that we get that proper nutrition and eat right and all of that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So, how can we purchase a copy of your book?
So the book is available. My book, My Mother's Keeper, A Daughter's Struggle to Balance Love, Care, and Protection for Her Mother. It is available on Amazon, and you can also purchase it by going to my website, by going to 50plusshadesofus.com. But it is out there on Amazon, and so you can find it, with very with ease. You can find it with no problem. Yes. And and I put this book up because I actually created the cover. So this book is all representative of my mother. This window was actually the window in the room that she was in when she had to be placed in a skilled nursing facility a couple of years before she passed. And the colors, the flowers and the colors is, the colors that she loved. So
Oh,
this
wow.
was a lot of love put into the book. And, this is just my contribution to the world,
Yes.
about something that is hard to talk about. That's me on the back, and I really go into some of the stories. I know it's going to help those of you out there who may be going through, uh, but just understand that you don't have to go through it alone, and there is help available. And Tiffany, coming up in our family, it was is historical in our, especially Black families. It was a lot of hush hush about diseases and things like that. They didn't
Yes.
really talk about those things. I didn't really start finding out about things until I was, and I'm fifth generation, right? From slavery, and so
Mhm.
we're in that generation, and a lot of things I didn't start finding out until I was in my late 20s and 30s about grandparents and things like that. And so it's important to talk about these things and
Mhm.
to get help, even if you're the caregiver or you're the person that's designated to be that one, to take on maybe more of a role in that person's life. It's a mental health thing. There is
Yeah,
help. Mental health is major,
it is.
more so now. And so all of that plays into your health as well. It's so heartbreaking, and it was sad to hear some of the people that were caregivers and were doing all these things for their loved one, and they ended up getting sick, and because it just weighed on them, and we don't have to carry that burden alone. So
Yes.
please, reach out, to the resources that are available, and get the assistance and the help that you need, so that you can be all that you were called to do.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story, sharing some great resources with us as well. Do you have any words of encouragement, inspiration before we close out today?
Sure. Words of encouragement. Hey, we are not in this battle alone, and just don't think that you're the only one going through, and be encouraged. As long as you're, waking up every day, you're going to have those days. We all have those days. And just know that, there's always tomorrow. So, stay encouraged and, uh, trust that, you're here for a reason. And things will get better. You will see the light of the day. So don't give up. And no matter what that struggle is, no matter where you are, do not give up. God still has a purpose for you and a plan for you.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And hey, thank you everybody for joining us today on another Phoenix Fitness Fanatics magazine author spotlight with Kimberly Richardson, author of My Mother's Keeper, A Daughter's Struggle with Balancing Love, Care, and Protection for Her Mother Battling Dementia. Everybody, you are not alone out there. The caregivers, even people that feel like, hey, there's something off about, themselves or someone, that they love, definitely know you're not alone. Know that there's resources out there. You just got to ask for them. Do your research as well on the different facilities and on dementia in itself. I had no idea that there were so many types of dementia. So believe me, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do more research myself as well. I'm going to be in connection with Kimberly as well, because I want to make sure that myself, my family, everybody is good, and I can do what I can for this as well. So everyone, thank you so much. We love you so much. PFF Magazine, we're out of here. Take care.